would say that if you can figure out your weakness, if it's data, if it's understanding the market, if it's negotiating, if it's just picking up your phone, figure out your weakness and work on that one thing first and then build from there. But if you're looking at 5 things and you're like, I can't do all, you got to just that ADD mind, you got to focus on one thing and get good at it and the next thing and get good at it. But I don't think anybody sucks at this. I think if you care about the people and you know how to put a deal together, you can do it. You just have to put in the time and the effort and the care.
All right, welcome to the Why Do I Suck as a Real Estate Agent podcast. Today, I'm really lucky to have Rebecca Durfey on with me. Rebecca, how are you doing?
I'm great.
All right,
Thank
wonderful.
you.
So Rebecca is a realtor and a team leader with Keller Williams out of the Phoenix area. So the Phoenix expanded area, I assume Glendale, Scottsdale, all those areas. But you got quite a pretty impressive resume and ranking in the top 1% of agents in all of Arizona and 1.5% of agents nationally, which is really tough to do. So you do a tremendous amount of volume. I'm assuming you have a few tips and tricks that we can learn from today that will certainly help people through this process. And that's really the essence of the Why Do I Suck as a Real Estate Agent podcast, is to help those struggling get over some of those hurdles and behaviors that will maybe help out. So tell us a little bit. I always like to do this just to give you a little 30-second to a minute. How did you get into real estate? What's your history there and how long you've been in it? And we'll go from there.
Perfect. I have been in it probably right about 23 years. I had 3 young children, and our youngest daughter, we had 2 sons, and then my youngest daughter has Down syndrome, and we knew that we had a little bit different trajectory of our plans. I always knew I wanted to go back to work, but knew at that point I needed to have something a little more flexible, and especially because she would be with us forever. Thankfully, wonderful. She's a gift, but just changed the plan up. I have sisters who are in real estate. I was a paralegal, so the contract part didn't bother me at all, and just decided this was the right path. Went in and got my license. I did it at night. I was babysitting kids in the day. We were just trying to make ends meet more and pay for some of the extras. And my first deal, my husband was out in the front yard, and our neighbor was out in the front yard, the mother-in-law, and she was telling him how her kids were getting a divorce and they needed to sell the home and she didn't know what to do. And so he said, my wife just got her real estate license. So he came in and he said, you got to go out there and talk to her. And I literally said to him, what are you doing? I am not going out there. I was not ready. It'd been 2 weeks since I got my license. And I think that's so important for people to understand. You have to have a plan. You have to go forward when you get that license. And gratefully, thankfully, I have always had something in process since then. So
your husband kicked you off the curb a little bit. So where did
your
passion?
And that was back in the day when we didn't have DocuSign, we didn't have the divorce. It was a very hard transaction, but a good one.
Yeah, but you're going to learn the most. And I think early on, that's important, is just to get as many reps as possible in whichever way you can, whether it's a $10,000 deal or whatever, anything there. That was my mindset going in early on, was I just wanted to be involved in everything right away so I could learn as much as possible. And that certainly helped me out a ton. Where did your passion for real estate come from?
I don't know that it was a passion for real estate as it was a passion to find a way to make a difference, to serve people in a way that was like big and impactful. Yep. And I always say, I have a son who's a physician. I always say he can save lives, but we change lives. Yeah. And that is, we do. We make all the difference in people on their path.
I love it. So, I'm wired that way as well. And that's a lot of the reason why I'm doing the podcast, is just to provide as much value as I can. I don't know where it's going to go, where it's going to lead, but if somebody gets a little nugget out of this that changes their career or their trajectory, then it was all worth it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So very cool. So obviously you have top 1.5% in the United States. That's massive. That's a ton of transactions. How many are you doing a year roughly?
We did 97 last year. We're doing 98 this year. We did 100 3 years ago.
Nice.
And I'm a solo agent, but I have an assistant and a director of operations. So I have people around me, but I'm the producing agent. So it's been busy, but good.
Yep. And Arizona is a little bit of a battlegrounds right now with the NAR stuff going on, multiple MLSs. In Green Bay, I don't have to deal with any of that yet. But
Lucky. Yeah.
what's really going on down there?
It's been a sideways market for the last 3 years. We have it. I was telling somebody today that people are always saying, oh, there's no buyers, there's no, because our listings are stacking up more.
Yeah.
It's definitely more work. We're working maybe 3 times harder than we would in a real easy market.
Same here.
But yeah, it's crazy. But I don't get too hung up on all the noise. I just say, there's always a buyer, there's always a seller. We're gonna find those people, and we're gonna get the home sold. So I think that's the hard part, is that agents are hearing so much constantly about how hard the market is that I think they buy into it, and then that impacts their morale, that impacts their desire, and then they get stuck.
Yep.
And we don't have to do that.
Yeah. Okay. So you have dealing with 100 clients a year. That's a lot. You're certainly putting in the work. That's 2 closings a week roughly. Is incredible. But what are, like, as far as like building for those agents that are maybe struggling or starting out, what is your number one go-to when I hit a lull? What's my number one go-to thing that Rebecca needs to do to get herself out of it?
You're talking about for me personally,
yeah.
a lull? I call that, my own verbiage is that I just have to step off the world for a minute. I just have to step back for a minute, regroup, and then go back in. I don't get burnt out, and I think that's because this is such a very big time everything passion for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have little children at home anymore. I don't have those things that can really start to be, those are so important, your family and whatever people are doing. So I have less distraction that way right now. But I think most importantly, I do have to step back sometimes and say, okay, I just need a minute to watch Dateline and eat my chicken noodle soup and just not think about anything. Yeah. That's probably the best thing for me, to regroup.
Yeah. So what are the big skill gaps from agents that succeed and the ones that don't? Like, where does that drive? We know the drive, passion is huge. If you don't have a passion for something, whether it's real estate or any other field, you're going to struggle in that field. We just know that. You're going to struggle with your day-to-day. But let's get into the real skills of why agents succeed and why they don't.
I think you'll probably agree with this, but you can have all the passion in the world, but if you're not good at it, you don't know what you're doing, that does not matter. That'll last you one transaction.
Yep.
A good friend, that'll last you one transaction. But if you're very skilled, if you sharpen those skills, if you know the data, if you know how to negotiate, if you genuinely care about those people, then that will be a lasting relationship, and they will be more than happy to share your name with other people. I remember I was on a panel one time, and one of the audience members said how her best friend had used another real estate agent and how upset she was, and that she was having a really hard time getting over it. And so I said to her, is that your best friend or is it not? Is she only your best friend if she uses you for real estate? Where's the genuine care? And it cannot ever be about us. It always has to be about the client.
Yeah, and it happens to every single agent that's been in the business for a while. I've had that happen. My wife's grandma used another real estate agent, even though I had put a whole bunch of work in and helped them move, and they still went and used another agent. Yeah, so that certainly stings, and it's I'm not going to say, I loved it. It was amazing. It certainly hurt, but the best way to get over that is to go get a different one and go build another relationship and create another opportunity, and you'll be better because of it, especially if you can take the high road. And you don't know the reasons why they didn't do it. Maybe they just felt awkward working with a family member or a friend, or
that is most likely what happened.
And I had one of my really good friends, he chose to use my past broker. And the reason why, he called me and he goes, I just feel like my house is going to be hard to sell, and I didn't want to get mad at you. And I was like, okay, I appreciate that. Now, he didn't end up selling that house. It was a hard house to sell, and it didn't sell. And he took it off the market. But we're still friends. I still talk to him all the time. And I actually talked him into turning that house into a rental. And because he had a very low mortgage and he was relocating. And so when he did that, he was cash flowing $1,500 a month on a house. And it actually paid his whole entire mortgage at the relocation.
Wow.
It worked out great. If I had known the whole story from the beginning, I would have told him to do that from the get-go, and it didn't work. But it worked out in the long run, and it always does. And I think that's
But that's the point, is when I've had those situations where somebody has called and said, hey, I've decided to go with someone else because your family, your friend, whatever. And I've been like, Absolutely. You do what is right for you. This is not about me. This is about you. And ultimately, do they come back? Almost
Every single
every
time.
time.
Yep.
Almost every time, because they don't owe me
Hmm.
anything. I know, and you know, you're going to do the very best job for them. I always say, it's not my comfort level to say I'm the best at anything. I don't walk around saying I'm the best, but I don't think anybody's better. And so I think I'm going to do my very best for them and I'm going to take care of them, but somebody else might too. And that's okay. They'll come back if I treat them right.
Yep, for sure.
So,
So what kind of systems? 98 transactions, 100 transactions. You have to have some pretty solid systems in place. And for newer agents or agents that are just getting the ball rolling, this is, I think, a lot of times where people hit a roadblock is they don't have a system. And I struggled early on. I have ADD and I have my hands in all sorts of different things and
most agents do.
easy to
Yeah.
bounce, right? Easy to bounce and not be locked in. So tell us a little bit about your systems and why those matter to you.
I have various systems. So when I go to a listing appointment, I have a very systematic way. So I don't, by having a system, and it has to be the system that works for whoever that agent is, whatever that is. But by knowing my system, I don't have to get stressed. I know exactly what I do in order to prepare for a listing. And I'm not like recreating the wheel every time I have a listing. So I have a folder with my resume and all the same things in there. I bring data. It's a very consistent plan that might adjust based on personality of the person I'm listing, but I've got it all there if I need it. And I'll tell you one simple thing that anybody can do. New agents, I wish I had known this when I was a new agent. I have 4 file folders, and those file folders are for the bright yellow. I take that to every listing contract. And until that information in that yellow folder is moved to a manila folder, which means they've moved to listing, that stays in my listing drawer or my file cabinet. And I keep it there until I know they are either sold with someone else or they're, because some people don't list right away.
Right.
And I can pull that file. I still have all the information. So that's one thing I do is I go bright yellow to Manila. Manila is that they listed. If they're a buyer consult has a blue folder and I go to that consult and I have my broker agreement, I have everything in there. We talk, we meet, whatever. I have so many blue folders because so many of those people are thinking about buying or maybe will buy or will buy in the future. When that blue folder, when we find a home, that moves to a red folder. So it's super
Yeah.
easy, but anytime I look at my file cabinet or my stand-up files, I know exactly who's a buyer, exactly who's listed, who, I know them all by color. That's a great ADD way of keeping things concise and systematic.
Yeah, I was just picturing it. My mind got a little bit happy there, so that was good. I love it. So,
There are so many simple things we can do that make our
yeah,
life.
so what does your daily life look like? Obviously, you have a family, you have a work life. What does that look like? What's your routine?
We get up at my husband and I, he's my director of operations, so we work together. We get up with our daughter at 5:45 every morning and get her ready for her. She's in an adult program,
Yep.
so we get her ready for her program. And that enables me to get my day started early. I get dressed every morning. I remember in COVID, people were talking and joking about the never getting out of your leggings and
Yeah.
whatever. I every day in COVID, every morning I woke up, I got makeup on, I got clothes on because I never want to be in a position where I do not feel I'm ready to take an appointment at any given moment.
Yep.
So that I still do that. I get up, I get ready, I get her ready. She takes off. I answer my emails right away. I make birthday calls or videos, and then I go through all my regular daily routine of what I've got. I have a morning call with my assistant every morning at 8. We go through what my schedule is that day and the next day. So it's just systematic. And then honestly, I never know where my day will go because I could have somebody call me and have an appointment tonight, but my morning is always the same.
Yep. And I think that's the best part of our job, quite honestly, is we don't know day to day what it's
Yeah.
going to look like, what's going to happen. Are we
Sure.
putting out fires today? Are we problem solving? Are we meeting somebody new that you could easily have somebody come in tomorrow and they'll buy three, 4 deals from you and you just don't
Yeah,
know that.
you are 6 degrees away from a change of your life at all
Yep.
times. Yeah.
Yep, that actually happened to me. I had a conversation with a guy my first year. I was at a campfire at my brother's house. We were having some drinks. I don't do that anymore, but at the time, I don't even remember talking to this guy. And 18 months later, he walked into my office right when I was at probably the lowest point in I would say the scariest point of me starting, where I left my W-2 job and that security was gone. And I was looking at, okay, I got another month or two and then I can't make my mortgage. And then he came in and he bought 11 houses from me. And he just goes, I loved our conversation. He's like, you have an investor's mind. And we just inherited a bunch of money from a relative and we need to spend this money because I don't want it to go to waste. And so he went and bought 11 duplexes or single family homes for me and rented them out. And the nice thing is now he's on the backside of it 4 or 5 years later where he's starting to sell these properties. So that one campfire now has gotten me 13 deals. And I didn't know that I was who I was even talking to at that point. I didn't even remember having that conversation, but he remembered me, which was really good.
Yeah. Yeah. Those people just do not realize that picking up your phone. I get phone calls from people, I can't tell you, probably 10 times a year where somebody says, hey, I've called several agents and you're the only one that's picked up your phone. Just pick up your phone.
Yeah, not that hard. Respond back to a text, even if you're busy. Hey, I'm in a meeting. Exactly. I call you afterwards. I'm really sorry.
And then call them.
Yeah.
That's the key factor is people aren't calling back or they're afraid it's spam, so they don't pick it up. I get that. I don't like getting all the spam calls either. Yep. But if somebody needs me to, especially referrals that have out-of-state numbers, pick them up. Don't be afraid to pick up your phone.
Yeah. And I think that's a great behavior right there. From the agents that I've seen that are the most successful, they're lickety split on that. It's, especially new agents because, and it's okay to say, I don't know. I think that's one thing for new agents. Hey, I don't know the answer, but I'm going to ask my broker and I'm going to get back to you on that answer and go from there, or your mentor or whoever that would be. It's okay. People would rather hear that than a BS answer. You just made something.
Right. And if you get back with them, then that is where your trust starts to be built.
Yep.
It's if you're scared and don't call back, or it's an answer that you're afraid to give. This is a job that requires confrontation.
Yeah.
And if you can't handle confrontation, the minute something, I remember I don't know how long I was in business, maybe 5 years. No, probably not that long because I had not had anything go south yet. And my sister was an agent for years before
You made it 5 years without any confrontation?
I don't know if it was quite that long. I got to figure that out. But I remember she said to me, I had a deal that was going south. And I'm like, I don't even know how to deal with this. What is going on? This agent or this lender's not calling me back. And she's like, this happens. You're going to have to figure it out. And I said, doesn't happen to me. And she's like, I promise you this happens. And I said, I'm never going to let it happen. Okay, what a stupid thing to say. Of course it's going to happen. But you have to get on that phone, advocate for the client, fight through stuff, give bad news. That's not fun.
Yep.
But you owe it to the client to do the very best by them and to be honest with them.
Yeah, humans are humans, and that's the hard part of this job. And if everybody was the same, we wouldn't have to worry about it. But it's wild. We had one on Friday that was just ridiculous where I was the listing agent and then we had it in-house. One of the buyer was thankfully one of our agents, and the night before the buyer went to do a final walkthrough, and the seller's boyfriend, who had nothing to do with the deal, he's not on paper, he doesn't own any of the houses, and he literally was F-bombing the buyers. He wasn't even supposed to be there, and he was F-bombing the buyers, like in the girl's dad's face, and it's her first time buying a home, and then he's like trying to get stuff out of the house. Now they had 3 months too. This deal was a long deal. They had 3 months to pack and get out, and they decided to pack Thursday night at 5:00. We went through all of that, and now on the other side of it, this girl obviously is scared this guy's going to show up at the house, and I went ahead and I changed all the locks on their doors. They had key codes, and I figured out how to erase all the key codes. And this girl now, the buyer now is saying that we were the ones who screwed up and messed all this up. And now she wants a bunch of money for some other stuff. And you're like, what do you want from us? We took you to breakfast. We took you to the furniture store down the road because they weren't out. We gave you 3 final walkthroughs. We offered you a moving truck. I don't know what else we can do, but it is what it is, and it's humans. It's something we have to deal with. And for our agent, Erin, this is really the first time she's had to deal with this type of thing. For me, I've been there before. I've had a seller sleeping the day he's supposed to move out in the house without unpacking, and I've had to go there and physically move his stuff for him and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Ideally, it doesn't come up very often, but it does. And so you just have to be ready to be inconvenienced and get through it.
And there's always somebody who can help. There's always somebody who you can turn to, whether you're a broker or a mentor, like you mentioned. But my son just started, he just got his license in, I think it was April, and he's shadowing me. I'm not letting him touch anything
Sure.
or talk to anybody
Yep.
until he shadows me for a year. And then he's just going to be our showing agent for a while.
Mhm.
Was telling him the same thing. This, you don't have to recreate any kind of will here. People are willing to share. People, like, you've got podcasts, like you could go on there. You
Yeah.
can go on forums. You can find stuff out. When I was started, we didn't have all that. So I feel like now of any time is a great time to learn and grow as an agent without having to feel like you're out on your own or an island.
Yep.
There's so many people willing to
Oh,
help.
100%.
Yeah.
Now you're in Phoenix. I assume that's a heavy relocation in and out at this point.
Yeah, pretty good migration from LA, San Diego, Oregon, Colorado. We have a pretty good migration. Yeah.
So how do you work with relocates? What's the process for you there? I'm assuming there's a lot of video calls and
Yeah, I don't get tons of people calling or buying virtually. I don't get a whole lot of that. I do get a lot of referrals
Sure.
from out of state. And when that happens, I'll get a referral. Let's say you call me and say, hey, I've got a referral for you. I reach out to that potential buyer and say, I send them a video and virtually introduce myself. And then try and build that trust that way. And then I will often, if that's the case, I will walk homes in order with FaceTime.
Sure.
Or a lot of times we use Marco Polo because there's not
a
huge gap on the size of the file. But I had somebody who called me today. They were moving here from North Carolina, and they were moving in we closed on a home for them. And she called and said, hey, the flooring people didn't get here in time. We're leaving on Sunday. Is there any way that you could meet them next week and let them in to measure? And that's the kind of thing that's the ongoing relationship. And so when somebody does that, is such a prime opportunity for us to take advantage of. This is not just a one-time deal where you're forever go-to. And so I think that's organically how our business has grown. Yep. I've never made a cold call in my entire real estate career. I've never knocked on a door. That just isn't my format. But I have made sure that I'm seeking out the referrals and making sure people are very comfortable giving my name.
So let's talk a little bit about that. I like to call them opportunities. I don't like to use the word lead because a lead is transactional and opportunity is a relationship. So how do you go establish, let's say early on in your career, now I would imagine almost 90% of your business is referral based, but early on, how did you build that referral base with meeting new opportunities?
At that time, so I would tell any agent, especially new agents, figure out your sphere, figure out where you're at. At that time, I had boys that were in Little League, and they were in elementary school. And so I was sponsoring Little League teams, and I was just putting my name out there all the time in my sphere. And that's how people just got to know my name. And I really concentrated in the area I live in so that it was more common. Now I have a banner at the high schools. I try to make sure I'm very community based, and I don't do a whole lot of client appreciation type things. The way I try to treat my clients is that you're a friend for sure, but business is business. I'll always be there for business. Yeah. And so I make sure that I'm always available and ready to talk about any sort of real estate transaction or real estate market.
Yep.
But
Love it.
So organically.
Yeah. And so you've been in it for 20 plus years, right? What is the key to longevity? Now, you mentioned passion before, which certainly that I would imagine is the number one reason why. But how do you maintain that? Have you built boundaries for your clients? Have you got your systems down? How have you maintained it for 23 years?
I think some of it is that of course, the passion, which, but it's also that desire to serve. Like, I'm making a difference. That feels really good. I always say in 2008, when we were sitting across from people who had cancer and were losing their home, and you have a lump in your throat, but you're the business mind. You're the person who's going to help them through it. So that was what I qualify as a sad market. It was very hard from a sadness standpoint as an agent. The market we're in now is a very hard market, but it's not sad. It's just taking a lot of effort and patience and hard work and beating the bushes to try and find your buyers and your sellers and whatever. But so there's all kinds of different markets along the way. And I think there is, at least in me, I like the conquer. I like to figure it out. I like to work on the puzzle and win it out. I'm also very competitive with myself. I don't care at all what everybody else is doing, but I like to do better than I used to do. And so I think that helps me stay motivated and going. But I wish everybody the very best. I think there's plenty of business. I want everyone to succeed, but I'm going to just continue to focus on how I can be better, systematized, and efficient.
I love it. Very good. So this has been amazing, Rebecca. Any advice for those that are really at that point of struggling, or maybe they're even saying, why do I suck at this? Like, any last parting words for them?
I would say that if you can figure out your weakness, if it's data, if it's understanding the market, if it's negotiating, if it's just picking up your phone, figure out your weakness and work on that one thing first, and then build from there. But if you're looking at 5 things and you're like, I can't do all, you got to just that ADD mind, you got to focus on one thing and get good at it, and the next thing and get good at it. But I don't think anybody sucks at this. I think if you care about the people and you know how to put a deal together, you can do it. You just have to put in the time and the effort and the care.
Yep. That's it. And that's the whole essence behind Why Do I Suck as a Real Estate Agent podcast is because I believe the same thing you do. I've seen people who are the least talented people be successful and the most talented people be unsuccessful. But what you just said right there is it. So thank you so much, Rebecca, for coming on. It's been amazing. It was great to meet you. Hopefully we'll stay in touch a little bit after this, and maybe when the book comes out or we want to go back, we'll get you involved again. But thanks again.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You bet. So that's a wrap here on the Why Do I Suck as a Real Estate Agent podcast. Thank you so much for spending time with me and our guests. The people you hear on this show really aren't guessing. They've been doing the work. They've been doing it for a long time. They're sharing their behaviors, their habits, their successes, their systems that actually lead to real work, real success. So please subscribe and follow so you don't miss the next conversation. Until next time, remember, you don't suck. You're learning. It's the beginning, or maybe you're in a rut, but you don't suck. So make a few changes, stay curious, stay consistent, and please keep coming back.